But, of course, to start off today's show, we have another entry in our series of just talking to as many different high school coaches as we can, those who won 4A state titles this year. My microphone's not following me as I stand up. But I got to stand up so I can see him. It's Bear River girls lacrosse head coach Jeremy Webb. He's on the show with us. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so obviously you guys had a pretty dominant run this year. We'll also talk about maybe some previous years. But 17-1, blew out most of the teams you played. The one loss was to Corner Canyon, I believe, and they're a bit of a lacrosse powerhouse, as I've heard.
Yeah, they are.
But obviously going undefeated in at least among 4A teams and in region. End up winning the state title by, I think, 12 goals. So not bad.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all.
Not bad.
I guess just tell us a little bit about this season and the road to actually what ended up being a repeat championship since you won the title last year.
Yeah, so like you said, we won last year, but coming in we had a different focus. We wanted to talk about how we're not trying to defend a state title this year. We're coming in and trying to win a new state title. And so it really helps the girls to stay focused with what our goals are and takes the pressure off. And because at the end of the day, they're not going to come in and take that trophy out of our building if we don't win one this year. That was the big thing, and I think it really did help to keep that down.
Coach, as Jason mentioned, you won the championship game by a healthy margin, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But it was kind of indicative of the season that you had. You had a few close games, but you had that one loss. But any game that was close was a team that was from a higher classification, maybe more quote-unquote traditional lacrosse power. It was a dominating season for your squad this year. How do you develop that mindset for your team to be so dominant offensively, but also protecting the net as well as you did?
Well, just giving me a little bit about myself is my background's actually wrestling and football. I also played a little bit of rugby overseas. But I was talking to Jason just a little while ago. I kind of got started with this because my older daughter, who now plays at Southern Virginia University as their goalie, she wanted to play lacrosse, but she didn't want to go down south and wear purple. So I was helping the wrestling team down at Bear River at the time, and I said, if you can't find a coach with 2 weeks to go before the season, I could help you out. And that's how it kind of all got started. My big focus is I am a defensive-minded coach, first and foremost. Everything begins and ends with defense, in my opinion. And so the mentality that I bring in is more of kind of a unorthodox mentality. I'm not a traditional lacrosse coach. I'm more of a X's and O's coach that was a wrestling coach that transitioned to be a lacrosse coach, and it's paid off very well for us.
So,
gosh, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I guess we can talk about that a little bit because, I mean, I don't have the years where you were a club team as far as records. Maybe you can enlighten us there. But I looked at the last 3 years, which is basically all the games you've played since lacrosse became a sanctioned sport, at least since Bear River had a sanctioned team. The combined record of, I believe, was 51-3, although you dispute that 3.
Yeah, it's fine.
But 3 years.
It's our JV team, one of them.
Yeah. Some technicalities there. So we can say 51-3, 51-2 still. That's a lot of wins to not very many losses. And in region play, you still haven't lost a region game. And the team became a sanctioned team in 2019. Granted, you didn't play in the spring of 2020 because something happened in spring of 2020 that kept you guys from playing.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was.
Let's just not talk about that anymore.
But still, a lot of success, at least over these years. And you mentioned before the show you haven't had a losing season as a program, even dating back to club. You're just like what has led to that? Obviously, some of that's coaching. Some of that's obviously a lot of that is the players. Just what has led to that? Is dynasty is a fitting word in this case.
You know, truthfully, I and it kind of maybe sounds cliche, but I liken it to the culture that we've created at our school. I know a lot of teams say, hey, we're like a family, but like that is literally what I bring to the table. I think a lot of it stems from my ex-military time. I was in the United States Air Force for 6 years, and it's all about creating a culture where everyone does and pulls their part and getting the buy-in from everybody. And I really feel like that's what it really is. And because you get girls working harder for each other when they believe in one another. It's a team ball mentality. I'm not afraid to sit a girl if they're not doing the things that we've agreed to as a team to do. Even if they're our best player, it will happen. So,
Jeremy Webb, the head coach of the Bear River girls softball. I don't know where that came from. Lacrosse.
Well, we talked to the Bear River softball coach last Friday.
That's right. We've had some good Bear River conversations here on the show. Bear River girls lacrosse, and it's been a lot of years of success. And you kind of alluded to what happened in 2020. I know that this year had its own set of challenges early on with the season.
The weather. Because
of snow and weather and just finding places to play and practice. What was that like for you? Because lacrosse is kind of like soccer. By and large, it's not going to be affected too much by weather, but you still have to be able to find a venue to play and practice.
Yeah.
If it's covered in snow, you really can't do that much. But what was that like for you and your squad this year, trying to get the season started?
You know, I think the biggest setback for us was girls are amped up, ready to play, and the doom and gloom weather just keeps it from happening. It's like, so it just kind of delayed everything more so. And I think for us, it was more of that, keeping that mentality in the right mindset and trying to get the girls to think about the season is coming. It's going to happen. Spring will eventually get here. I don't know if it's truly even here yet, but, and we'll get a play. And I think that was the biggest struggle to get over, is because at the end of the day, they're there because they want to play. I'm there because I want to help them reach their potential. And it took a few more weeks. But we were fortunate at Bear River. We have what we call the Bear Center. It's in a little bit of it's about a half football field indoor facility that we're able to practice in. And we don't get a whole lot of time, but we get enough to where we can at least keep our stick skills going and whatnot. So that was pretty like a blessing in disguise for us.
I think you kind of touched on this a little bit when we first asked you about this dominant season, but for Bear River lacrosse at this point, you're 3 seasons into a really dominant run. But for the girls, like, how do they, day to day handle having a target on their back? They're the team. They are the powerhouse of 4A at this point. How do they handle that when teams see that and they're going to start giving you their best every day in and day out?
I haven't really asked them about that, but I kind of look at it like other sports. A lot of our athletes are multiple sport athletes, which I love. They play all kinds of sports, and a lot of the sports they've not been as successful as we have, and that's not a knock on anybody. So I feel like they understand what it feels like to be on that other end. So when they come in and they're being dominant, they understand that they need to respect the fact that they're winning. Don't treat the other teams with disrespect, because they know what it feels like to be there. But at the same token, it's hard for a coach in a sense, because we, like you've kind of related, we do have some times where we kind of do dominate some games, and it may not look like we're trying to like provide mercy to a team, but we truly are. When it might just be lineup changes that we're doing. I'm a big believer in, I don't want to play down to another level that we're capable of. So when we get a lead, I try to put in other rotations that I don't want you to drop your intensity and your level of play, but so you keep playing, but it might be our second or third stringers in there so that they're able to keep pushing that pace to the mentality that we have as a team.
Was part of what's contributed to this run of success, where you've had games with these margins, you've been able to get younger players more experience on the field?
I'm going to say that doesn't hurt, not one bit. I can't really put one thing on it. I have some really good coaches that come in and they help. Like one of my son, he's been with me from the day we started. He wanted to come and hang out when he first graduated high school. He's like, "Hey, can I come be one of your assistant coaches?" And I'm like, "Sure, as long as you're keeping it professional." And he's been with me since day one. He's turned into a killer goalie coach. He's our head JV coach, and he knows the system inside and out that we want to produce for our girls. So I really feel like we're a really good developmental program on top of. So we're developing girls every year at the same time as we're being dominant. But what that does for those girls being developed, they're playing against some high competition on the daily because of it. So I would say, yeah.
And that actually was going to lead to another question they had for you, just about the development of younger players, like youth programs that are happening in the Tremonton area, where these younger girls get a chance to become first exposed to the sport, an opportunity to play the sport at a younger age. Because sometimes we've seen some people get introduced to the sport like when they first get into high school. Yeah. There's flyers like, come join the team, come try out, whatever. But we know it's a sport that's been growing for some time. Other areas have maybe a little bit more of a lead time than others. But what has it been like in the Bear River Valley for the youth sports, getting that going?
So when we started our program, this will be our 6th year, I think. We also started a youth program as well. My wife and myself and my son, we really put a youth program together, because I do have a younger daughter who's going into 8th grade, and I knew she liked to play. And so we started a youth program to get it going. And this last year, we turned the program over to another family that has done a great job with it as well. And the numbers keep growing year and year. And I get asked, like, how come your program keep growing? And I liken it to a lot of things, but when you actually come to one of our games, you can truly see that the girls like each other, like being around each other, and it's like it's like a family. I know that's cliche, but it truly is. But they'll also take the time to talk to these younger girls and say, hey, this is a great sport. You want to be a part of it. And it doesn't hurt that you're winning, because it really helps the girls say, I want to be a part of that. So when people ask me, what does it take? It takes community. It really does.
So I kind of wanted to ask you, actually I wasn't planning on asking this question before, but we were talking before, I kind of noted how, and I said this to some of the boys lacrosse people we've talked to, where I haven't been as thrilled about girls lacrosse, because in kind of the reason is with boys lacrosse it's physical, and girls lacrosse there's a lot of rules that kind of prevent that physicality. It kind of becomes a non-contact sport, which I didn't like as much, and I think some of that's my personality. When I play sports, I play physical. Every sport I do, I will run you over. Football, basketball, played soccer, I play physical. So maybe I didn't like it as much, but I think what you said when we were talking kind of changed my mind a little bit to where I have more respect for the sport of girls lacrosse than maybe I did before, even if it doesn't have that contact that I usually like to see in certain sports.
So I start out kind of the same mentality as you, and you get girls that say they want to do that high contact sport. I really think that that's true to a certain extent, but I don't know if parents are on board with their daughters getting clotheslined with a stick by no means. I don't know if I would be, truthfully. But truthfully, think about this. I've talked to a couple of boys coaches over the years. You could have a bigger, faster, stronger team and win games, even though you're less skilled. In girls, you ain't getting away with that. If you're bigger, faster, stronger, and have no stick skills, you're not going to win a game. You have to have a plan in place. You have to follow that plan. You've got to have your stick skills high enough. Truthfully, it's a way more finesse game than it is the boys' game. And so if you really want to hone in on the actual game and watch really what's happening with the stick, man, it's amazing watching a girl's sport. And compare the two sticks for that matter. You see some of those girls flinging around that stick like it's nothing, right? But the pocket's pretty flat compared to a boy's stick. Boys can get away with that. I love watching a boys lacrosse player play with a girl's stick for the first time, and they can't hold on to the ball a lot of times. And they're like, why? What the heck? I hate this stick. And a lot of it is because you literally have to learn it has to become an extension of your arm to get good at it. And I really have kind of grown to appreciate the fact that it is a finesse game, and it is a sport that takes a lot of skill to master.
Let me ask you about the your run to the championship and the championship game specifically. You go through the postseason much like you did the regular season, dominating your opponents. You get to the championship game. Mountain Crest is your opponent. First half, this looks like a normal game. You're kind of dominating Mountain Crest there. But in the second half, they get some more goals on you, and it's a little bit more even. What was the difference in the second half there? I mean, you guys still won by a 12-goal margin, but what was the difference in the second half for you guys, or for Mountain Crest for that matter?
Well, first we kind of slowed it down. I'm not a big believer in embarrassing anyone. I don't want to do that. Second, we had some different schemes, like different rotations of players in. And if you actually watch the game, we were down 2 players for about a good chunk of the time. We were playing 10 on 12 for a long time, and we had to finish like 13 minutes of the last 13 minutes of the game. We were playing a player down because our girls were so amped. We picked up a couple of cheap fouls really fast, and they were fouls. Like, I mean, they're not cheap. They were fouls, but like if they just play inside themselves and do that, it doesn't happen. But I don't want to take anything away from Mountain Crest. They did a great job. They came out, they executed, they played aggressive, and they did a great job. So,
and able to get more goals on you than just about anybody for the course of the season. For you, there were some interesting things that happened during the playoffs with some teams, some of their players having to make decisions. Do I attend graduation ceremonies or play with my team? But that wasn't really the case for Bear River, was it? Because your graduation ceremonies were held after the state championships.
Yeah. Really, I think the only one that it really affected was Mountain Crest, truthfully. We actually, if you watch their semifinals game, my girls actually stayed and cheered them on. It was actually pretty cool to see. They were cheering on Mountain Crest because they become friends with a lot of these girls. They play them so much. But I also think to me, because they played Juan Diego at the beginning of that year and they lost to them, and I really think it may have been a blessing in disguise in a sense, and not that they were having to play 12 players the whole game, but it was like a call to arms. Like they had nothing to lose and everything to gain for that game, and their goalie played outstanding in that game. It was awesome. It was awesome to watch.
So it's obviously 2 straight championships, but obviously got to still look forward to the future. I guess what's the upcoming year looking like? I mean, I know we're still months away from the start of the next season, but sports kind of feel year round at this point. So,
oh yeah, I've already done many lineups. So, truthfully, like our starting 12 is going to look really good. We shouldn't miss a beat in that sense. I've get asked like, how's it going to feel to lose 9 seniors? That's a big hole to fill, right? But I don't think of it as more of filling a hole, is allowing the new girls coming up to do it their way. And like every year you lose. It's high school, it's college. They have the same thing. Like you're losing players every year, and you have to be able to fill the gaps left behind. And are there some dominant players that we're gonna miss? Yeah, absolutely, we're gonna miss them. But the girls coming in, it's for them to find their way and to find their path, the way they want to do the success, to repeat the success or not. They've got to put the time in, number one, and number two, find the way they want to do it. And as a coach, I really try to not get stuck in my schemes as much as I try to adapt to what they bring to the table, and then we try to go from there.
So this next year is going to be a lot of change. Not only just with your roster, but how the 4A landscape looks.
It's going to be a lot more teams, a lot more challenging.
Yeah. So, have you played against any of these teams that are going to not be in your classification? Have you had any experience with some of those schools before?
We've played Payson a few years back. We were lucky enough to. That was 21, and teams have totally changed since then. But we were able to beat them 14-3 back then, I believe. The other teams we haven't played. Jordan, we've played. They're dropping down. Last year, we beat them as well. But truthfully, like year to year, things can change so fast. It really can in high school sports. If you've been around high school sports long enough, I really just think that as a coach, my main focus is creating and maintaining that team culture. I think I talked to Jason about this, but I've been a part of a lot of championship teams over the years, all over the world, truthfully. All the way from Turkey, Germany, into West Jordan and Jordan, and where I went to school. And the number one thing that I know is all those teams had something in common, and it was the team culture. Because if it had a good team culture, kids loved being there, kids worked harder, and it was just a more fun experience. Like one of my favorite years ever, we had a losing season, but I'm going to tell you right now that it was probably the best year I ever had in sports. And one of the worst experiences I had was the reverse. Like we won state as a wrestling team, but like a lot of the kids on the team couldn't stand to be around each other, and it was a negative experience. So I really focus on creating and maintaining that team culture, and the outcome will be what the outcome is at the end of the season. I can't control that. What I can control is I prepare the girls to the best that I can. They try to prepare the best they can, and we put our best foot forward and see what we can do.
So Eric stole my final question that I had.
Oh, no.
No, it's all good.
But did you have anything else?
Well, I just, from all of us and all of our listeners, congratulations on a
Thank
great
you.
season, another great run of success, and building a successful program there. And I guess it's kind of ties to my last question, too, but just the future of girls lacrosse, how it's kind of changed. It's become a sanctioned sport. It's kind of still an infant sport in that sense,
It
being
is.
sanctioned, but as more schools kind of adopt it and make it part of who they're about and available to their student athletes, how do you see this sport kind of evolving and changing?
I've already seen it evolve a lot since the club years to the sanction years. In the club years, like it was like the same teams were just dominant every year, and a lot of that had to do with they were pulling student athletes from pretty much anywhere they wanted to be on their teams. But now there's the powerhouse schools that were lacrosse, like they're still really good, but you're seeing a gap close, and it's not happening overnight, but you can see the talent is building in all these schools because they're building their own programs. And I bet you they're starting to build their own youth programs that are going to start feeding into those. And I love the fact that it's growing. It gives girls and guys another avenue of playing sports and helping maintain themselves through high school and not being a dropout. That's the big thing.
All right, well, very thankful for Bear River Girls Lacrosse head coach Jeremy Webb for coming on the show, and congrats again on the back-to-back championships.
Thank you so much.
So we'll go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll continue the show after this on 106.9, 1390 AM, The Fan.